Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, we gauge the Yormark effect through almost 2 years as a Big 12 commissioner and consider whether or not Grant McCasland can keep the band together heading into year number 2. Into it next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again, my man, and a few different things to dive into. On today's episode, we talked yesterday about transfer portal and replenishing a roster for Grant McCasland and the Red Raiders, but I want to get to another front as far as possible replenishment for the Texas Tech basketball program as we leave this season now behind. We'll get to that coming up in just a moment, but want to kick it off on a different footing altogether, maybe something you weren't anticipating. How about a Big 12 Pro Day? The event officially beginning today. You'll have workouts into tomorrow, that being Thursday, but this one of those harebrained ideas from Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark. I actually read yesterday some reporting indicating that this was something he brought up in his interview to be the Big 12 Commissioner when talking about maybe some things that he would do differently or some things that he would bring to the table that haven't been brought before. I think there are, 12 or 13 Red Raiders going to be taking part in this. This could have changed, I guess, a little bit since they released this list, but guys like Rashad Williams, Xavier White, Dennis Wilburn, Rabbit, Rusty Stats, Cole Spencer, Tyler Owens, Austin McNamara, Tyreek Matthews, Jalen Hutchings, Malik Dunlap, Baylor Cup, Miles Cole were on an initial release list as far as those that could be participating. And curious to see how this pans out and the ways in which maybe the Big 12 can use this to some advantage. And I got to tell you, now that it's here in front of us, I guess I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen this happen before. And I'm sure that if it goes well, we will see it happen again, not only for this league, but maybe for some other leagues across the country.
Well, yeah, and especially so with your league expanding, I think. But this was the brainchild of Brett Yormark. I think very on, on the onset of when he kind of started looking at this job. And I think people initially were like, I don't know why nobody's done this before. It was kind of the thought process when he started to pitch the idea. It's sponsored. You have a tremendous location in using the Star with the Dallas Cowboys facilities and already have a relationship there with, the Big 12 championship game being played at AT&T Stadium and just all the things. But it's, look, is somebody going to want to go play football in the Big 12 conference because they have some pro day at the end of their journey? No. But this is about trying to put the league's best foot forward and trying to get the fringe players, the ones that weren't invited to the combine, in front of NFL people. And now that you have also what is it, we have is it the XFL still, or is it USFL, or it's the UFL? That's what it is. It's the United Football League. You've got a team in Arlington, you've got a team in Houston, and you've got a team in San Antonio. So that's very Texas centric too. So, again, for the fringe players, you're trying to put them in front of professional opportunities. But here's what Brett Yormark, here's where the smart part comes in. I think that there's a lot of times that I've been to a Texas Tech Pro Day over the years, and if you have like a Mahomes or a Crabtree, you're going to get a lot of NFL scouts. Okay, they're going to show up to see like a potential first rounder or stuff like that. But if you just in a normal year, you're going to have some fringe guys, maybe just not a whole lot that is a bona fide draft pick, right? And so you don't have a lot of attention, that shows up, comes your way. And a lot of times at the day that you're doing your pro day, other schools around the region or area, or, however you want to look at it, are also doing something similar. So a scout has to decide, or an organization has to say, man, I'd prefer our people be here, not there. It's kind of like recruiting. I mean, you're gonna get more scouts rolling through Dallas-Fort Worth or Plainview. I mean, that's just kind of, it's supply, demand, that kind of thing. So,
Sure.
yeah. But I also think that this is something that he's going to really try to not just put these kids in front of NFL scouts, but this is one of those things that I think if you're a fringe player, you're really going to want to go to, because they're going to offer up like financial advice. They're going to offer up, all kinds of self-help or self-care or things that really can grow you as a potential professional athlete. Just stuff that I don't think you can get anywhere else or many places. And I mean, you can, but I just think that's smart too. So this is a well-rounded deal. Yeah, you're going to run a 40, and some people won't. Some people be like, man, I ran in Indianapolis. I'm just here for the other stuff. Or I'm here to interview in front of what I think they're expecting, like 130 NFL scouts and folks represented. So there's a lot going on with this event, but I think it's very smart. And I'm interested to see how well received it is.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring up some of the other stuff, because some of these guys are coming to the end of the line, obviously, as far as not only college football, but potentially football in general. But from the college perspective, going to stop having things handed to you, and you're welcomed into the real world. Here we go. Good luck with whatever you've gotten so far. So taking advantage of any of these things that are still there in front of you, I think would be a great idea as far as getting in the room with some of these types of people. Again, whether it's a football conversation or not, so much of that preparatory stuff that I know Texas Tech and some of the others offer to their student athletes that goes not taken advantage of, probably something that you might regret looking back down the road. So a great idea to take advantage, obviously, of all of those things. And hopefully all of these things add up to more football for the guys who are seeking that kind of future. And speaking of the future, man, let's take a little bit of time here to look at a brief past, but then consider a bigger future for the Big 12 Conference. It's been, I think, almost 2 years. I think Brett Yormark was hired as the conference commissioner around May or June of 2022. So we're closing in on 2 years. And I was curious to kind of pick your brain, Chris, about the Yormark effect, or lack thereof. I'm not here to say that he's reinvented the wheel by any stretch of the imagination. So you can let us know in the YouTube comments if you feel like there has been an effect or has been an impact. I think so much of that is felt, or at least talked about, when it relates to conference expansion, realignment, things like that. What's your commissioner doing for you or not doing for you? And that's a topic we're going to revisit before the week is up, as we look eastward to ACC country. Dallas, Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on there and how that could impact the Big 12 Conference on an upcoming episode. But we have seen some things done differently. We've seen some things tried as far as like a Big 12 basketball tournament or things that are involved there. A wrestling championship belt, something that's involved there. I'm still a little conflicted on. You know what I'm saying? There has been a list of things that Brett Yormark has brought to the table, and I'm sure plenty of things happening behind the scenes that we may not be privy to. But you can't say he hasn't tried some different things for the Big 12 Conference. Do you think that as a league they have felt the Yormark effect in a good or bad way, or is it maybe still too early to kind of gauge that? First, today's episode brought to you by Bettor Together. Daily fantasy sports players, listen up. Are you tired of the same old daily fantasy grind? Make a roster, cross your fingers, hope for the best, all alone? Well, Bettor Together is here to shake it up as the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork makes the dream work. Got a friend who's a fantasy shark? Play with him, not against him. Use him to your advantage. It's a great way to stay connected with your sports crew when gone are the days of watching games together when, work, marriage, newborns get in the way. Pick more or less on real-time player stats, strategize with the bros to boost your odds, and watch yourselves climb up the leaderboard together like Rocky and Apollo. Download Bettor Together now from the App Store and sign up using our promo code LOCKEDON for a free $5 entry into any NCAA basketball contest. Remember the code LOCKEDON because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. Today's episode brought to you by Amazon's Fire TV, your destination for sports from live games to highlights and beyond. Fire TV offers incredible viewing experiences with smart TVs as well as the Fire TV stick, which you can just plug, boom, right into your existing television. And you got access to millions of movies and television episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the upcoming college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. And that's not all. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from all of your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. So check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV or Alexa devices. And if you haven't done it already, you don't know what you're missing. Trust me on that. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Do you think that as a league, they have felt the Yormark effect in a good or bad way? Or is it maybe still too early to kind of gauge that?
I don't. I'd love to hear some of the negatives if anybody were to offer up any. I don't. I'm unaware of much there at all as far as just mistakes or perceived mistakes or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying he's been perfect, but the thing that I think I appreciate about the Big 12 commissioner now more so than what we were getting with previous guys that held this title. I appreciate how visible he is. He's everywhere, and we all see him. He's at various basketball games. He's all over this Big 12 tournament for a week and a half, men's and women's, and all that. Now he's obviously doing this. He's quoted a lot. I think he's got a transparent relationship with several national media folks, and so you hear from him. It's not nothing is like really shrouded in secrecy. And maybe that's maybe that is somebody's negative out there. It's like, man, I wish he'd not be so visible. I don't know, but I mean, I think it's the polar opposite from what we usually had. Like, I wonder what's going on. I wonder what they're thinking. We were in the Big 12 tournament. I think when he took this job, he being from the NBA background that he did, he saw what was going on in Kansas City and looked at like the revenue generated. And he was like, I think there was probably like okay. And I mean, that event, and I've seen it, it's even changed from year one to year two. He's squeezing every drop he can of revenue out of that deal. And I'd love to see it on paper, how much more the league is making off of that than compared to what they used to. Some media folks have been very frustrated because they sit up at the top, but he's got, that's
a big positive in my book, by the way.
And almost moved the radio folks elsewhere, but we're still down there. But it's a quaint group down there. But you've got like, I'm just giving you these examples, but it's like there's all these private like clubs and areas in this arena that they've kind of created that was special access that costs money to get into. There's these tables that were like $10,000 a piece, this lounge area in the end zone that apparently they pitched to a local market, and it was a lot of Kansas fans that bought it because every time I looked over there, when the Red Raiders were playing, the whole thing was pretty much empty, but Brett had his money.
Right.
There's probably 30 of these like cocktail type tables. It was like $10,000. This is your table for the week. You come sit here, lounge around, all the food and drink you want, set up shop. You're good to go. Well, then Kansas loses early. And so all the Kansas fans were like, yeah, we're going home. Anyway, point being, it was a huge revenue generator. And that's the point of so much of what he does. And they're they're blasting Big 12 Mexico all over. Nobody's experienced that yet, but Kansas and Houston this December, get ready, because that's going to happen. So anyway, I appreciate how, and we'll get into this at some point more at length, but don't think he's sitting idle if the ACC starts to, splinter, which maybe some would say it already is. So there's that aspect too, which it'll take us a bit to get into that. But I think I'm glad he's on my team. Let's put it that way. With all that's gone on, I'm glad he's on my team.
Yeah, it seems like there have been certainly worse alternatives that we've had to experience as far as Big 12 fans, and some of the leadership that has come and gone through that door. I guess my only beef really was that he didn't tell us up front he had a twin brother. And when I saw that, I had to go, what? There's another guy that looks like this? Have you seen that guy in person? Because they're like carbon copies. Have you seen his twin brother?
No, I have not.
Well, if you've seen Brett Yormark, you've seen his brother. And that was something I didn't know coming into this. So I don't know if the league maybe needs to hire the brother as well. And then you got like a double mint situation. We don't know. They won't know.
Got a hankering for some double mint gum.
I'm telling you, you want to talk about really cornering somebody in a negotiation or in a meeting. You pop up with another one there. I think that's got to be some type of intimidation tactic. Aside from a bigger picture ACC conversation, I am very interested in basketball television rights negotiations that are down the road a little bit, because there was a talk about, separating these conversations and really trying to take advantage of what you were doing as a league with the Big 12. And there was also some involvement as it relates to the ACC and the Big 12 kind of going shoulder to shoulder. If the ACC was to remain intact, going shoulder to shoulder on some of these, basketball negotiations. And that's a whole nother conversation to get into. But that's when I'm really, really intrigued to maybe next see Brett Yormark try to flex a little muscle with them.
Well, and one thing I failed to mention too, you know what else I like about Brett, and the Texas Tech fans should feel very good here, is that he's got a tremendous relationship with some of your most important people. There's a couple of regents, people would know their names, and your athletic director and your school president that Brett Yormark is consulting with often. Like something is about to happen, something is happening, we're thinking about something happening. He is consulting with these Texas Tech folks, and some of them are on specific committees and all that stuff. So I wanted to offer that up too. I don't think every institution has it like that. It doesn't mean that you're getting special treatment, but you're also very involved in any league-wide decision and get his line of thinking and all those things. So, I think the basketball thing is worth monitoring fairly soon, just because of the expanded conference schedule. How that and we don't really know yet anyway what your new TV contract, like the windows, are going to look like now that Fox is about to enter into the equation and be airing some of these games. We're so used to everybody's playing on Saturday and then everybody else is like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I mean, does that get tweaked at all? I saw yesterday, I don't know if you even paid attention to this, Cowan, but like, did you see the NFL announces they're going to play some NFL games on Christmas Day?
I did. Yep.
Okay. And multiple, which meant the teams that are going to do that are going to play on the Saturday before that Wednesday, which is also the day of the college football playoff. Okay. Initial several college football games. Well, you start fighting with each other. You're trying to generate ratings and all that stuff. I only bring that up to say it'll be interesting to see kind of, we've been so used to the way college basketball has been presented to our fans in this league for, I don't know, it feels like for a while, like you're used to this routine. Does that get altered a bit because you've got to go outside of certain windows and things like that because other folks already have windows taken up that's part of new contracts and all that stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. And we certainly know if the NFL is in the room, muscle being flexed or things like that, it's going to be a tough room to compete in a lot of ways. But curious to see how that shakes out. And as I mentioned, we'll revisit some things involving Brett Yormark and the landscape for further expansion, realignment, conference crumbling or whatever it may look like out ACC way, as now they've got the attorneys sicked on the league office. So that's always a fun time whenever you can get the lawyers involved. Okay, let's switch gears before we get out of here, Chris, and get back to the basketball program here in the LBK. I know yesterday we talked portal preferences for Grant McCasland and the Red Raiders, and talked about who may be going, staying, what that could look like as far as you rebuild your roster this offseason and get ready for year number 2. But one thing we didn't touch on, and we probably should have, involve some of those guys actually on the bench, because whenever you have a successful season, much like in football, obviously you may consider others being targeted for either head coaching jobs or jobs elsewhere as far as the assistants are concerned. And obviously we had a guy that was really intriguing as far as a hire, some called the greatest college basketball assistant coaching hire there has ever been, whenever Dave Smart came south of the border from Canada. Very highly thought of, I know. And I was curious to ask whether or not you felt like there may be a chance to keep that band together, if there's targeting happening, anything in the wind as far as some of those guys and their futures. First, this week's March Madness Bracket Highlight brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that's standing out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest, just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level. Today, again, at our expense, the NC State Wolfpack goes the way of the Nissan Rogue, continuing their surprise run now into the Sweet 16. They say win life, go Rogue, and that's exactly what the Wolfpack continue to do. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com today. Today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors, and eBay Motors has you covered with everything you need to maintain your vehicle and keep that ride or die ride on the road. Or if you're just looking to elevate your car's game to the next level of performance, they got what you're looking for, with roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, superchargers, and accessories of all kinds to fit your style. Whether you're looking for speed, power, or design, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts to perfectly fit what you need. So just head over today to ebay.com/motors, where you're going to always find exactly what you're looking for, and with no risk because of eBay's guaranteed fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit just right every time, or your money back, keeping you burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to keep your ride or die ride on the road and moving your life forward at ebay.com/motors. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions do apply. I was curious to ask whether or not you felt like there may be a chance to keep that band together, if there's targeting happening, anything in the wind as far as some of those guys and their futures.
Yeah, this is just comes with the territory. You have a head coach that knows what he's doing. They were different than everybody thought they would be this year schematically. Reinvented themselves in the middle of the year, and we know all the storylines there. And you're a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament. 4th place in the Big 12. All the stuff, and a bit off the radar compared to what everybody would have thought. Well, that gets some attention. And unfortunately, for a guy like Dave Smart, it's going to be we hardly knew ye type thing, because I think he's only going to end up spending 1 year here. I hope I'm wrong there, but I don't think I am. And it's just because I think he was a hell of a hire, and I think Grant deserves a lot of credit for that. But I think that Dave Smartle is going to end up being a head coach next year. And that's
I didn't make that phrase up, by the way. Greatest assistant coaching hire. People were saying that. I mean, the dude's got national titles stacked on national titles in Canada. I mean, this kind of maybe went under the radar for an American basketball fan, but in other circles, it did not at all.
I loved some of the things that he really ingrained into this team, and we knew how good the offense was, yeah, some of it is shot making and all that, but schematically, he taught these kids and kind of introduced this program to like the 3-and-3 concept, which is, I love it because it's so simple and yet it applies so much pressure on the other team. It's like, okay, get the ball, make or miss to the opposing 3-point line or the opposite 3-point line in 3 seconds. I mean, and it's not dribble it all the way up. It's like push it, like, +1 it, advanced pass, all that stuff. And let's see what we've got. And we can punish a team if they're not ready or if they're not matched up, but it's a mindset. The other thing I love that, and some of this stuff seems basic, but he really introduced some of these concepts, at least with what I saw. I mean, I don't pretend to know who was responsible for what. I just know he had a lot to do with like the offense, if you will, and some of those things. But like and introducing, and a lot of teams do this, but I'd seen Texas Tech do this very, very well this year. Anytime you're driving baseline, there was almost always a cutter coming down the lane. It was like poetry. Anytime you're driving down the lane, there's a cutter coming from the baseline. It's just like this piston working, and so you always knew where your teammates were going to be, is my point. And it puts pressure on the rim. But yeah, I think Dave Smart's going to end up being on the West Coast as a head coach. I am thrilled for him and his family if this is what ends up happening. But I hate it for Grant and for Texas Tech because he was really good at what he did. And if this is the way it goes, I think the reports are, and I believe that they're true, that he's going to be the head coach at Pacific, which is on the West Coast, as the head coach. And so you'll have to go find somebody else. But this is the challenge at these jobs. When you have a good season, you surround yourself with good people, you have a good year. Other folks didn't have a good year. They want to be a part of it. And so that's kind of how it works.
Well, and I'd been wondering, of course, since that hire was made, what his intention was, because he had a very decorated career, obviously, as a head coach. I think then, prior to his arrival at Tech, he had stepped back from being a head coach, but was still involved with the program, and it was kind of like a transition sort of period. Yeah. Makes his way to college basketball here in the great state and 49 others, and now we'll go to. Well, look, I can't tell you what you're going to find on the West Coast. I don't know, Mad Max. Have you really thought this through, Coach? Are you going to be the next Tom Hardy or Mel Gibson having to swing from a 50-foot pylon to keep somebody from stealing your water? I don't know. Maybe that's not happening yet. Is it too late to keep Coach Smart in town? No, congratulations if that is the way that it goes down. But I always wondered, is his intention to really try to make a mark in American college basketball as a head coach, or is this like a second phase of his coaching book? I don't know, but maybe it was always clear that he was going to have that type of opportunity and wanted to take advantage of it.
He's just got an unbelievable resume and an unbelievable reputation,
yeah.
And I think it's you have to credit, Grant for putting that thing together, thinking outside the box, whether it was their relationship or however that got put together. But yeah, I wondered that too. It's like, is this somebody that just wants to be an assistant, wants to get to the U.S. and then like kind of see where this thing goes? But and he can be a head coach. There's no doubt. I mean, there's going to be some recruiting aspects to it, and there's going to be some things that will be interesting. And it's harder now than it ever has been because, NIL and the portal and all that stuff. Some would say maybe easier. I don't know, but I don't know if I agree with that. Yeah.
Easier for some
to flip your roster and all that stuff. Yeah. But but this is, I guess, the way that this will end. And again, I think everybody around here, I don't think as the time you and I are talking that Pacific has announced anything, but I absolutely expect this to happen. And again, we'll see if I'm right. Without any official announcement, I don't think you've heard anything out of Texas Tech or Pacific or whatever, but it's out there, which is the reason we're talking about it. But I think everybody around here would say, man, go crush it, man. But gosh, we're going to miss you kind of deal. And those are tough because, he did a really good job. And again, there was no bad or anything on why he would exit. He's just trying to, and again, you can't blame people, but like
No.
Luke Barnwell just kind of getting going. I mean, he's been a head coach at a prep school for a long time. And every time you see these guys hitting the portal, it's like Sunset, or Sunrise Academy, is like, listen, his circles are huge. Coach AC has done some things, but I think they, and Matt Breyer, I think you'll retain those guys. They are younger, and I think the Power 5 level as an assistant is really where they need to be right now for the foreseeable future. That would benefit, this will benefit them greatly. But Grant is now presented with a potential opportunity to go. And here's the thing. I mean, I guess you could go hire somebody like Mike Boynton and put him next to you. You could go. I mean, there's a lot of like. I just say that because there's a lot of head coaches that are out there now that were head coaches that are unemployed. There's a lot of assistant coaches off of staffs that are now unemployed. Who did he? I think the Ben McCollum thing, who he really flirted with last year, is not necessarily going to happen. Because I think he wants to be a head coach, and there were some rumors that he was trying to get the West Virginia head job, but I just think he really wants to be a head guy. So anyway, it just we'll kind of see what happens if Coach Smart to the West Coast it becomes official.
And I'll go ahead and officially announce my candidacy for that spot. I know Coach McCasland's probably out there in the audience. If you need a guy to stand on a sideline and yell flex or motion, I am your dude. All right, Chris, enjoyed it as always. Good stuff there, and a little bit of a surprise at the end of the program. That's why you hang around for the final 10 minutes of the conversation. Thanks for the time as always. We'll see you on the other side.
Run our stuff.
Run our stuff.
Coach, what is that? I'm not real sure. Our stuff, like what my stuff or your stuff?
Did we work on that? Tamale.
All right, man. Appreciated the time as always. Thanks for watching, listening, all that stuff, and we'll talk to you all tomorrow. Keep hope alive, everybody.
And make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. For Chris, I'm Casey, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.